See how it goes. Like, how the fuck do I it peaks higher when I speak into the side of it. I think I'm supposed to speak into the side of the microphone. Because I do it like this, and it's lower. I do it like this, it's higher. I don't know. But I said I was going to do a video about Interview with the Vampire, so that is what most of this video is going to be about. But I think it's just going to diverge into the topic of vampires in general. Because the book that I'm currently working on and writing, will it be released, that remains to be seen, is revolving around my vampire original character. He is one of my first supernatural original characters that I've made, because now there's been a long line of them. And in that realm of my universe, my original characters, I'm so protective about them, because more or less they all have pieces of me in them, which I guess that's how it is with everybody, maybe, I don't know. But with this vampire, I was like, yes, I have a concept for how I want the book to go. I'm still working on it, and I would be okay with putting him out there. I don't feel as defensive, because I understand Anne Rice so much with not wanting anybody to write fan fiction of her work. You know, I don't agree with that lady in a lot of instances, as much as I like her works and what has been adapted from her works. But she's in the grave now. I need to reel my point in, and I don't know where I cast the line at. Right, feeling defensive about characters. This one, yeah, I'm like, I'm okay with the idea of putting a book out with him. I'd be okay. The original concept of the book was just going to be following him, but then I had a vampire hunter pop up into my brain. I don't know how everybody else's brain, kids, original children, original characters pop up in their brain, but it's very specific. It is like a birthing of Christ in most cases, where it's like, oh, okay, sometimes like somebody's there, and sometimes like, oh, somebody's there. But you know, he popped up, and now he's in the story, and now they complement each other very well, and it is bringing together what I wanted a lot better. So he is a good added addition. And I was hesitating getting into Interview with the Vampire before I watched the show, because I want to be aware of not taking too much or copying, which hasn't been the case. It has just expanded my love of what I'm already doing with my concept of vampires and my very tragic old man. Well, he's in his 40s, but, you know, middle-aged man. What is my son doing? Hold up. What are you doing, baby? No. Love writing, and if I put it out, I put it out. If I don't, I don't know. Like, nothing's changed, I guess. I just have it sitting for myself. I get to my points about Interview with the Vampire, so I'm just rambling, and my vampire boy came to mind first while thinking about this. As far as writing, I had an original idea of what my author name would be, but that's scrapped. I'll just say that's scrapped. I heard one of my friends on a podcast one time, because unfortunately my Christian name I go by is already out there. Not that I necessarily wanted it out there, but it is. You can find it out. No, nobody doesn't know me personally, I don't want them calling me that, but it's out there. My friends on this podcast, I was like, oh, he's on this podcast, I'm gonna listen to it. And then I didn't expect it. This is probably the first time I heard this combination of the name. I don't know if it was, but you said John Graves. And for one, I had to, in context to that, I had to pause the podcast. And I started crying because of what he said. Well, that's what happens when you have trauma around how a lot of your friends in the past have just said shitty things about you behind your back and actually hated you. That when you have friends who actually are like, no, I'm not ashamed of being friends with this person, and then they say something nice about you, actually on a public platform, like a podcast or something. Yeah, now every once in a while when I'm thinking about like author names, I'm like, that kind of has John Graves. Maybe I'll go the full Christian name and say like Jonathan Graves. I don't know. That's tit for tat. If I get there, my original point of this video, which is interview with the vampire. Oh my god, watching the AMC series, it was life changing. I'm very glad I did. I did the original watch through of it and felt my feelings, how I felt about them, and then I rewatched it with my best friend, who is the original person that I even knew about Interview with the Vampire Chronicles from, because they are super fan of that series, and Lestat stan through and through, like an actual intelligent one that sees all his flaws and doesn't think like boy mom him. I'm so glad I rewatched it through a second time, because I got to pick up so much more stuff. And it's funny, the first time I watched it, I'm sure I said this in one of my other videos, but not everybody's gonna watch every single video like you're collecting Pokemon cards, but the Pokemon cards are how many hours of my videos you're watching. I hated Armand by the end of it, because of course, I'm gonna put a spoiler warning on this actually, but I'm also not gonna go into detail. Then I watched the second, I'm like, I love Armand. Like, Louis and I love Louis. Louis is my front and center. Well, actually, think about it. Character-wise, Claudia is my front and center. I don't think Claudia has done any wrong. That is my one true stance. But Louis was my favorite character, and then after the second rewatch, Armand. I don't know if it's Louis or Armand. It might be both of them. Because Armand's he's a fucked up character. Which is interesting, because I'm like, oh my god. Well, I started looking more into him, and then I got his book, which I still have not gotten through, because every time I open it, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna open it to a random page, and it's like the most horrid fucking shit. Of him getting groomed and abused by all these adults, and it's like, Jesus Christ. And Armand just I hold him so close to me, much like I guess Daniel says in Queen of the Damned, the books. He sees all these horrible things that Armand does, but he also thinks he's very beautiful, and he's in love with him and shit. And it's interesting in the context of fictional characters. Okay, if Armand was a real dude, I would be running for the hills, but I would also be like, you know, if I was in Daniel Malloy's position, don't help me. I'm where I want to be, but also I would want to be in Armand's place, being a vampire, stalking Daniel Malloy. When the ship is so good, you don't know which one of them you want to be. Okay. Discussing this with the mentioned friend, Claudia is by far, at least for us, the most relatable character. As much as we have our favoritisms towards like Armand and then Lestat, Claudia is 100% the most relatable character in that series. Madeline is, in the series, I love what they did with her. The concept of she is this little shop owner, and she did a controversial thing to survive through the war. I love her and Claudia's relationship, and the wheels turning, the series of events that it took for her to decide that she wanted to be a vampire and be Claudia's companion. Because that, in the place in Madeline's life, that was her way out. She didn't have anything else. Everybody she knew was dead and gone, and everybody else was always going to hound her for the ways in which she survived through the war. So she had really nothing. When Claudia came along and gave her this new outlook, gave her this new opportunity at a life, because she was just rotting away. Quite frankly, if Claudia didn't come along, Madeline probably would have stayed in that shop and just wasted away there day after day and day after day until, well, Claudia did save her from being raped, so she would have either faced that one time, who knows how many times, and then, you know, who knows what happens to her. But Claudia gave her that out, and I love her character because it resonates with people who they don't have the opportunities that everybody else does. And sometimes you need a person or a group of people or what have you to come into your life to really get freedom from a situation that you're in. Not everybody can just pick themselves up from their boot tails, or, you know, whatever the fuck the saying is, and do it themselves. Sometimes people need another person or another group of people, what have you, to step in and help them out of a fucking shitty situation. That's just how it is. This individual plague that is taking over society, where it's like, oh, you don't owe anybody anything. Oh, do it yourself. And a lot of people fall into that because they have no choice to, but that's what I took from Madeline's story. Claudia gave her a sense of freedom and an out that she wouldn't have gotten if Claudia didn't save her from being raped and turned her into, and exposed that she was a vampire. And then got to know each other and realized, I want to be turned to a vampire too and be your companion. I won't go into any more spoilers, but I love this too. I'm quite frankly not going to speak in detail about LINTT because of how a lot of his fans are. A lot of them can't look at his character objectively and as what he is. And Mr. Sam Reed, he gets it. I'll just say Mr. Sam Reed gets it. He gets LINTT's character. He gets his abusive behaviors. He gets the inconsistencies of why he is the way he is. I love Autumn Brown. She is a creator on here who makes videos about Interview with the Vampire, and she later did interviews with them all, which is super sick. She's like she's one of the coolest YouTubers. Sam, I believe in the interview that she did with him, he speaks about how a lot of LINTT's rage has to come from a place of toxic masculinity, and that's going to be uncomfortable for a lot of people in one way or the other. And he's also spoke about like how he wished there were, or he hoped that there was going to be trigger warnings in certain episodes because of the content. And he just really gets his character. He gets LINTT. He doesn't try watering him down as like, oh, a poor baby, but he's traumatized. That's why he's doing this stuff. He should be excused for it. So-and-so character is worse. If you're going into this series worried about, oh, which character is worse? Oh, let's justify this character, then demonize this character. Especially, I'll just say, especially LINTT and Armand, because those are the two that get a fan ward about, like, oh, this one's more abusive, this one's more terrible, this one's more blah, 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 blah. It doesn't really matter. The abuser war, and it doesn't really matter. Too many people miss the point of these vampires have been fucked up. They were turned during very fucked up points of their lives. they never got the chance to break cycles of abuse, so they are continuing it in one way or the other. Their trauma responses are blown out of proportions. These are vampires. They have bigger emotions than humans do. So it is going to be magnified by so many accounts. And also the amount of fans who really watered down how much trauma and abuse that Louis and Claudia have gone through at the hands of these men, which I wonder why that is. I wonder why a lot of fans water down Louis and Claudia's abuse of these two men. Why is that? Why? There's no characteristic that they both share that could explain that. It's racism. Yeah, I love Louis's character when I first started the series, and I was like, I didn't know anything about how he was in the books and stuff until during my rewatch. But I was like, oh my god, he's a pimp. He's a pimp. Oh my god. And keep in mind, I'm not like a full service sex worker. I've never had to deal with pimps or anything like that. So I feel like my opinion or my possible input on it is limited because I don't have that worldview, even though I'm in that industry. I'm not in that part of it. So my thoughts on him being that it's not very in a dot. I don't have a dotted opinion of it. Louis in the series is so much more interesting than Louis in the books. Making him a black man in New Orleans and giving him the job occupation that he has, and seeing his struggles with race and how his relationship with class still doesn't distinguish that for him. It's just in a lot of more complex ways. It's so much more interesting than reading about a plantation owner. And Race had her thing with taboo topics and racism. I'll just say racism. And excusing pedophilia in the book series. Which again, I love what has come from her works and her books and her imagination, but also a lot of it needs to be called out. And how she was writing the vampire Armand at the same time that she was openly speaking about how she believed, I don't remember the full story. It was this dude that was going to prison because multiple underage boys spoke out about being, by him in various ways. And Anne Rice was in support of this man and saying that she didn't think there was a problem with it, and that people need to be looking at boys of whatever age or people of whatever age as adults, because they still have, I'm not going to put words in her mouth. I'll probably put it up on the screen. But yeah, that was fucked up, and that made a lot of sense for the viewpoint of the vampire Armand, which is interesting because the friend that I conversate about the series with, when she was younger and into these books, she also got the warped perception that Marius was doing something good for Armand, which obviously they have now realized was them literally getting groomed by her books and by what was being written. Well, it's pretty fucked up. And Armand being the one that's like closest to my heart, I'm like, the point is not to shit on Anne Rice, but I'm so interested to know who they're gonna cast as Akasha, because they had the perfect Akasha in Queen of the Damned. Queen of the Damned, the movie, it was so bad. Akasha was the best part of it. They had god tier casting. It's gonna be big shoes to fill. But I think they can do it because they've been doing a really good job. They got Lestat Sam Reed was born to play this dude. Jacob Anderson as Louis. If that man doesn't get any rewards, I'm going to learn how to sculpt. I'm going to buy 24 karat gold. I'm going to sculpt him a reward myself. He deserves it. Delaney, the way she was casted as Claudia like a week or two before they started season 2, and she had to like learn all that material and prepare in that little bit of time because of Bailey leaving. She deserves the award too. Like Assad does. Like, oh my god, that whole cast. That cast, they put crack. They put crack in their DNA or something. I don't know. They got blessed by a pixie. I don't know. Preparing that cast, because Eric Bogosian, respectfully, I mean this in the most respectful way, he's a very attractive man. He's an attractive man, and I'm not into, like, you know, people always like DILFs, like older men, like, you know, near Eric's age was like 70. I've never been attracted to a man around that age. Why is Eric so good looking? Why do I... And Luke Brandonfield as young Daniel, the way it's so many people have pointed out through either like gift sets or whatever, the mannerisms are like him and Eric's, they're so similar. It looks like the same person. Like, it looks like Eric birthed that man. That is like his actual baby that he brought into the world so they could do. I need the casting announcements. I need the production announcement. I need the filming announcement for it. Yeah, I need to get a tattoo from this series too. I don't know what I'm gonna get a tattoo of. I feel like I'm gonna get a cassette tape because I love Daniel. Of course, he's... I mean, the flashback episode, he is a sad addict, a boy failure. Fork found in kitchen that I would love Daniel Malloy. I would have eaten Daniel Malloy up, and then he would have spit me out. I would know that due to my personal life. Okay. Well, that's all. Oh my god, I have to end this. Bye. Oh god, am I tearing up? I might be tearing up.